The cemetery caretaker grabbed my arm and said, "Stop. Watch what your son is really doing at the grave." I thought it was grief driving him, until I saw what he pulled from the dirt. From that moment, nothing about my family or death felt real again. This is not just a ghost story. It is about how love can dig its way back from the grave and what happens when you dare to answer it. The cemetery air was cold and still. Mist curled between the crooked stones like pale fingers reaching for the living. I had come to visit my wife's grave, the same way I had every Sunday for the past 3 years. My son, Ethan, ran ahead of me, small sneakers crunching over gravel. He always brought flowers, always arranged them neatly, always whispered something I could never quite hear. Today, though, something felt wrong. The caretaker was there, hunched beside the gate, his face shadowed beneath a wide hat. He watched Ethan closely. When I nodded politely and moved to pass, his hand shot out and clamped around my arm. His grip was stronger than I expected. "Stop," he said quietly. "Watch what your son is really doing at the grave." A chill slipped down my spine. Ethan was kneeling, head bowed, lips moving fast. At first, I thought he was praying. Then I noticed the soil, freshly disturbed. Damp. His small hands were digging. Slow. Careful. Not planting. Uncovering. The caretaker's eyes were wide, trembling. "I told him to stop," he whispered. "Every time you come here, he does the same thing." I could not breathe. "What do you mean?" I asked, voice shaking. "He is not visiting his mother," the caretaker said. "He is." The ground gave a faint sound, a soft suction, as Ethan pulled something free from the dirt. It was small, wrapped in cloth. He brushed the soil away with tenderness, as if handling something fragile. The cloth fell open, and I saw a lock of hair. Not brown like his mother's. Gray. The caretaker stepped back. "That is from the next grave over," he said. "Your boy digs there every week." My throat tightened. I looked again at Ethan, who was now smiling at the bundle in his hands. He whispered to it, like it was whispering back. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of earth and rot. The trees surrounding the cemetery began to sway, though the air felt still against my face. A sound rose from the ground, low, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Ethan looked up at me, eyes bright, pupils too wide. "She said she misses you, Dad," he said. "She wants to see you again. Soon." My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. The caretaker backed away slowly, crossing himself, muttering something I could not catch. Ethan turned back to the grave, placing the hair bundle carefully inside the small hole he had dug. Then he began to hum, the same lullaby my wife used to sing. Only now it sounded wrong. The notes trembled, uneven, too slow. The mist thickened, swallowing the path, the trees, the sky itself. And from beneath the soil, something began to move. The earth shifted beneath Ethan's hands. A soft tremor rippled through the ground, spreading outward like a heartbeat. I froze. The caretaker whispered a prayer, his voice cracking. Ethan kept humming, calm and steady, his voice small but clear in the rising wind. The melody was one I knew too well, the one my wife sang to Ethan every night before she passed. But hearing it here, in this cold place, turned my stomach. The sound was slow, off-key, almost alive. The dirt moved again. This time, it was not just a tremor. The soil began to breathe. In and out. In and out. The ground pulsed beneath my son's knees, lifting and falling like lungs struggling to take air. I stepped forward, heart hammering. "Ethan, stop," I shouted. But he did not even look at me. He kept humming. And then I heard something hum back. A low, aching tone from beneath the ground. It was her voice. Soft. Broken. Familiar. "Ethan?" The sound came from the earth. From her grave. The caretaker grabbed my sleeve again. "Do not go closer," he hissed. "You do not want to see what he calls up." But I could not listen. I tore free and stumbled forward, my boots sinking into the soft, shifting dirt. "Ethan," I yelled. "Please, son." He turned toward me slowly. His face was pale, streaked with mud and tears. She is cold, Dad, he whispered. She says it hurts down there. My knees buckled. The smell of wet soil filled my lungs, sharp and metallic, like blood. Ethan, I said, forcing my voice steady. That is not your mother. Your mother is gone. He shook his head.
No.
She talks to me every time. She says you stopped listening. Something cracked deep in the ground. A sound like a coffin splitting open. The caretaker cried out, stumbling back into the fog. The wind roared through the cemetery, rattling the iron gates. Ethan stood, clutching the open bundle, the lock of gray hair pressed against his chest. Mom says you do not believe anymore, he said. Tears filled my eyes. My hands trembled. The earth at my wife's grave began to cave in on itself, the grass folding downward into a dark hole. And from that hole came a whisper, thin, trembling, full of longing. My name. The voice was hers. It was impossible, but it was hers. The same voice that once laughed in the kitchen, that read bedtime stories in the soft glow of a lamp, that said I love you for the last time in a hospital bed 3 years ago. Now it called to me from the dirt. Come home, it said. Come home with us. I wanted to run. Every instinct in me screamed to grab Ethan and go. But my legs would not move. My heart ached with the weight of that voice. The sound of love mixed with decay. The kind of voice that makes you question whether grief itself can open doors that should stay closed. Ethan reached down into the hole, his small hand trembling. Something pale reached back. A hand.
Thin. Gray.
The wedding ring still on its finger. My wife's ring. The caretaker shouted my name, his words drowned out by the rush of wind and the sound of shifting earth. I fell to my knees beside my son. The soil was cold.
Wet.
The hand in the dirt moved again, reaching higher. And for the first time in years, I felt her touch.
Cold. Soft.
Familiar. My son smiled through his tears.
See, he said.
She came back for us. The world tilted. Grief and terror twisted together inside me until I could not tell them apart. And as the mist closed around us, I realized the caretaker was gone. Only my son and I remained, kneeling by a grave that would not stay closed. And the hand that held mine began to pull. The hand tightened around mine. Cold, damp, and unyielding. The feeling of her touch, my wife's touch, was too real to deny. I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to believe it. Ethan was crying now, smiling through it, his face streaked with mud and tears. She missed you so much, he whispered. She said you forgot her. The voice from the grave grew clearer. It was not a whisper anymore. It was speaking.
Slow.
Gentle. Familiar. Do not be afraid, it said. You are meant to be with us. The ground began to sink deeper. The grass around the grave turned black, curling like paper in a fire. I tried to pull my hand back, but her grip was stronger than life itself. The earth swallowed my wrist. The soil was soft but heavy, like wet cement. Every instinct screamed at me to let go, to pull away, to protect my son. But I could not, because somewhere beneath that horror, beneath the smell of death and soil and decay, there was love. Familiar love. The kind that once filled our home with laughter and the smell of coffee on Sunday mornings. I could feel it in that cold hand. I could hear it in the way she said my name. And that was the cruelest part. Love does not die clean. It rots. It lingers. It waits. Dad, Ethan said softly. She wants us to come home. His small hand brushed the soil, and the ground beneath him began to move too. The hole widened, swallowing the flowers, the stones, the little wooden cross we had placed years ago. Ethan, no, I shouted, finally breaking free of her grip. But it was too late. The ground gave way. My son fell forward, vanishing into the dark soil. I lunged after him, screaming his name until my voice broke, my hands clawing at the earth. I could hear him calling from below.
Dad.
She is here. She says she is happy now. My chest heaved. The caretaker's flashlight beam cut through the fog behind me, shaking wildly. Get away from there, he shouted. That is not her. That is not anyone. But I kept digging, dirt filling my mouth, my eyes burning. I saw something moving beneath the soil, small hands, pale and still. I grabbed hold and pulled. When I yanked him free, Ethan was limp, his body covered in dirt, his eyes closed. For one terrifying second, I thought he was gone. Then he gasped. A deep, shuddering breath. His eyes snapped open. And that was when I knew. They were not his eyes anymore. They were hers. The same soft green that once looked at me across the kitchen table. The same eyes that watched me promise forever at the altar. Only now they were empty. No warmth. No light. Just hunger. Ethan smiled, her smile, not his. "See," he said softly. "Now we can all be together." The caretaker grabbed my shoulders, pulling me back with surprising strength. He dragged me through the mud, through the fog, away from the sinking grave that was swallowing the last of the flowers. "Do not look back," he said, panting. "Do not listen when she calls your name." But I could still hear her voice.
Sweet.
Gentle. So full of love it hurt to breathe. "Come home," she whispered again. Just one step closer. My legs shook. My heart begged to turn around. Every memory I had, her laughter, her warmth, her kiss goodnight, pushed me toward that voice. But the caretaker held me tight. "You love her," he said, "but that thing is not her anymore." I fell to my knees, crying into the dirt, my body shaking. The fog thickened until I could no longer see the headstone. Only the faint outline of Ethan still standing there, too still, watching me with her eyes. And then the mist swallowed him too. The night went silent. No wind. No crickets. No sound but my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The caretaker helped me to my feet, his face pale and drawn. "She is not the first," he said quietly. "Grief makes the ground hungry." I stared at the grave where my wife once rested, where my son had vanished. The earth looked untouched now.
Smooth. Calm.
Peaceful. Like nothing had ever happened. Only the faint smell of lilacs lingered in the air, her perfume. I fell to the ground again, clutching the soil with shaking hands. I wanted to scream. I wanted to dig. But deep down, I knew if I touched that dirt again, I would never come back. The caretaker placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. "You love them enough to let them go," he whispered. "Do not love them enough to follow." The moon broke through the fog for a moment, casting silver light across the cemetery. I looked once more at the grave, and for just a second I thought I saw two figures standing there hand in hand. My wife. My son. Smiling. And then they were gone. The silence that followed was the kind that stays with you forever. The kind that haunts every empty chair at the dinner table, every photo on the wall, every quiet breath in the dark. And I realized that love, once buried, never truly dies. It just waits for someone willing to dig deep enough to find it. I left the cemetery just before sunrise. The mist was fading, curling back into the trees like it had never been there. But the silence remained. That awful, endless quiet that crawls under your skin and sits heavy on your chest. The caretaker walked beside me, his flashlight shaking in his hand. Neither of us spoke for a long time. When we reached the gate, he stopped and turned toward me. "You cannot come back here," he said softly. "If you do, it will not let you leave again." His eyes were tired, haunted, like a man who had seen too many others make the same mistake. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him I could not leave my boy. But the words would not come, because deep down I knew he was right. Something had taken hold of that place, and it was not done with me yet. The road home was long and empty. My headlights cut through the early morning fog, catching the faint outlines of the gravestones in my rearview mirror. I tried not to look, but I could feel their presence, like eyes in the dark, watching, waiting. When I finally reached the house, it felt smaller, quieter. The photos on the wall seemed faded somehow, like the light had drained out of them overnight. I stood in the living room, staring at the last picture we ever took together.
Me.
Her. And Ethan. All of us smiling, the sun bright behind us, the world still whole. Now there was only me, and the memory of what I saw. I sat down on the couch and buried my face in my hands. My palms still smelled faintly of soil, of her perfume, of death. Every sound in the house made me flinch. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, the wind against the windows. And then, somewhere in the distance, I heard humming.
Faint. Soft.
The lullaby. Her lullaby. I froze. It came from upstairs. From Ethan's room. The room I had not entered since that night. My legs moved before my mind could stop them. Each step up the stairs felt heavier than the last. The closer I got, the clearer the sound became. A child's voice, gentle and steady. Ethan's voice. Humming. Just like he used to when she tucked him in. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I reached the door and paused. The air was cold. Colder than the rest of the house. My hand trembled as I turned the knob. The door creaked open. The bed was made. The window slightly open, curtain moving in the breeze. And there, on the pillow, was a small bundle of cloth.
Dirt-stained.
Wrapped tight. Just like the one from the grave. My breath caught. The humming stopped. And then I heard his voice, right behind me. "Dad," Ethan whispered. "She says you can stop missing us now." I turned slowly. He was standing in the corner. Same clothes as that night. Same dirt on his hands. Same eyes. Hers. He stepped closer, and the floorboards creaked under his small, bare feet. The air smelled like lilacs again. That sweet, soft scent that used to follow her everywhere. Tears blurred my vision. I wanted to run. I wanted to hold him. I wanted both, all at once. He smiled, head tilted slightly. "She says it is better where we are," he said. "No more pain. No more crying." My chest ached. Every part of me screamed to believe him. To just give in. To let the ache stop. But the caretaker's words echoed in my head. "Do not listen when she calls your name. Do not follow." I took a step back. Ethan frowned, his voice small and sad. "You do not want to be with us anymore?" My throat burned. "I will always want to," I whispered. "But you are not my son." The air in the room changed. The warmth vanished. The light flickered. And for just a moment, his smile disappeared. In its place came something else. Something ancient. Something hungry. He tilted his head again, eyes darkening. "Then you will never rest," he said. The window slammed shut. The room went black. And I heard it again, the sound of dirt moving. The walls seemed to breathe, the floor shuddering beneath my feet. The house was becoming the grave. I stumbled backward, crashing through the doorway and tumbling down the stairs. The front door blew open, wind screaming through the hall like a living thing. I ran, out into the street, barefoot, trembling. The dawn sky was gray, the sun hidden behind heavy clouds. When I turned back, the house was still. The curtains motionless. No sound. No movement. Just silence. But I knew better. They were still there. Waiting. Watching. And every night since, I have heard that lullaby. Sometimes from the woods behind my house. Sometimes from the attic. Sometimes, God help me, from right behind my bedroom door. People say grief fades with time. They say the dead rest when the living let go. But they are wrong. Some loves are too strong to die. And some graves are never deep enough to keep them buried. So I keep my lights on now. I sleep with the door locked. And every morning I check the floor for footprints. Small, muddy ones, leading from the door. To the side of my bed, the footprints were always there. Every morning. Faint at first. Then darker. Wetter. Like someone had walked through the rain before stepping inside. But it had not rained in weeks. I would wipe them away, heart pounding, hands shaking, and by the next sunrise they would be back again. Same size, same shape, stopping right beside my bed. I tried to tell myself it was imagination. That grief was playing tricks on me. That maybe I was losing my mind. But the smell, that soft, sweet scent of lilacs never left the room. It hung in the air like memory itself, refusing to fade. I stopped inviting people over. Stopped answering calls. Stopped sleeping. because every time I closed my eyes, I saw them standing there. My wife and my son, side by side, smiling, always smiling, their skin pale as moonlight, their eyes calm and endless, like deep water that pulled you in if you stared too long. And always that same voice, hers, drifting through the air like a prayer. Come home. The first time I heard it in daylight, I dropped my coffee. It spilled across the floor, soaking the photo album I had left open. The pictures inside warped, faces blurring like they did not want to be remembered anymore. That night, I burned the album in the fireplace, watched their faces curl and blacken into smoke. I thought maybe that would set me free. But fire cannot burn what grief keeps alive. At 3:17 a.m., the house groaned. A door creaked open upstairs. My blood ran cold. That sound, Ethan's bedroom door. The same rhythm, the same slow hinges. I grabbed the baseball bat from under the couch, breathing through my teeth. My body trembled so hard I could hear it in my bones. Step by step, I climbed the stairs. Each one groaned louder than the last. When I reached the top, the air was freezing. Every window fogged over from the inside. The smell of lilacs was stronger now. It filled my lungs, thick and sweet, like I was breathing her in. The door at the end of the hall stood open. The same door I had locked every night since that morning at the cemetery. Inside, the curtains swayed, though there was no wind. Ethan's toys were lined up neatly along the wall, exactly the way he used to leave them. I had boxed them up months ago. They were not supposed to be there. Something in me broke. I called his name.
Once. Twice.
The sound of my own voice felt foreign, too loud, too desperate. Then a small voice answered from under the bed.
Dad.
Every hair on my arm stood up. I fell to my knees and lifted the blanket. Darkness. Empty. And then 2 small hands shot out, grabbing my wrists. I screamed, stumbling back, hitting the dresser hard enough to make the mirror shatter. In the cracked glass, I saw them behind me. Her. Him. Both standing in the reflection, but not in the room. Smiling. Her hand rested gently on his shoulder, just like she used to when he was nervous. "Why are you afraid of us?" she asked softly. Her voice broke me. It was every memory I had fought to keep and forget at once. "I miss you," I said, tears burning down my face. "I miss you both more than anything." "Then come with us," she whispered. Ethan's voice joined hers. "Please, Dad. We are waiting." The mirror flickered, the room fading around me. I felt that same pull again, deep in my chest. A longing older than fear. A grief that wanted to swallow me whole. I could almost see it. The place they stood. Soft light. Still air.
Peace.
No pain. No loneliness.
Just them. Together.
And for a moment I wanted it. More than breath. More than life. But then I saw their eyes. Too dark. Too still. The kind of stillness that is not peace. It is the silence after the scream. The cold after the heart stops beating. And I knew whatever stood before me wore their faces, but it was not them. I stumbled backward, clutching the cross necklace my wife used to wear. "Not yet," I whispered. "Not like this." The reflection cracked again. Her smile vanished. His eyes went black. The glass shattered, spraying across the floor like ice. The light died. The humming stopped. And the house went still. For a long time, I stayed there on the floor, shaking, covered in dust and blood and broken glass. The air felt lighter, as if something had finally released me. But I knew it was not over. Because love like that does not fade. It waits. And sometimes, when the wind blows through the trees outside, I swear I hear Ethan laughing. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and the scent of lilacs fills the air again. And sometimes, when I look into a mirror, I see 3 shadows standing behind me. A woman, a boy, and something else.
Smiling.
And every time, I wonder if this is grief. Or if grief has learned to wear their faces. Just to keep me from letting go, the days turned into months. The seasons changed outside my window, but inside, The air always felt the same. Quiet, heavy, waiting. I stopped going to the cemetery. Stopped leaving flowers. Stopped trying to speak to what was gone. Because I finally understood something the caretaker had tried to tell me that night. Some love is meant to be remembered, not revived. Grief is not a ghost. It is a shadow that follows you until you learn to walk in the light again. I still live in the same house. Ethan's room stays closed, though sometimes I stand outside the door with my hand on the knob, just listening. No humming now. No whispers. No footsteps. Just silence. Sometimes, when the lilacs bloom outside the kitchen window, that same scent drifts through the house. Soft, gentle, familiar. I do not fear it anymore. I breathe it in. I let it remind me that love was here once. Real and warm and alive. And maybe, somewhere beyond what I can see, they are together. Happy, whole, free from the cold that took them.
I still talk to them sometimes.
Not to the grave. Not to the mirror.
Just to the air.
Because love does not end when a heart stops beating. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the smell of lilacs, in the echoes of laughter that memory refuses to let go of. So now, when the night feels long and the world too empty, I whisper the same words I used to tell Ethan when he was small and scared of the dark. It is okay. I am still here. And I will see you again. Just not yet. Then I turn off the light and let the silence hold me, like the softest reminder that the dead do not need to be woken to know they are loved.